A very good morning to all who are joining us. I'm Ashud Bhatt, your host at Detox or Disruptive Literacy Talks. As we move on this journey of talking about disruptive literacy and how we can achieve 100% literacy for everyone in India, we are aware that government plays the most important role in addressing education on a large scale. And here at Detox, over the past 3 weeks, we have had many eminent personalities from government, from NGOs, and from the education field who've shared examples and success stories. But today we have a very special guest and a very particular success story in the field of governance. And our speaker today, he has led transformation in quality of learning that can be learned and that can be replicated in many other states. Our guest today, he is a civil servant who has led by example. At his very first posting as district development officer in the West Singhbhum district of Jharkhand, he led a very highly innovative model for learning in Anganwadis and using his own resources. And then he scaled up this project. He's also a very enthusiast of technology. He's used integrated technology in governance as well. And presently, he's leading the Rural Development Department in Jharkhand as Joint Secretary. So it is a complete pleasure to welcome Shri Aditya Ranjan ji. Thank you, Aditya Ranjan sir, for joining us and giving a valuable time today.
Thank you so much for giving the opportunity, Ashud. Thank you.
Thank you. We are also joined by Dr. Sunita Gandhi, who is the convener here at Detox, and she's also the lead worker here in our Global Dream Literacy program. So, welcome to Dr. Sunita Gandhi ji also to this very interesting discussion.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here in this meeting with Aditya ji.
Right. So, Aditya ji, the very first question that we would like to ask you here at Detox, we are trying to understand, learn, exchange different success stories that have worked in the field of literacy, education, and especially of learning both of children as well as adults. तो आप वेस्ट सिंघभम में आपका जर्नी स्टार्ट हुआ इन द सिविल सर्विस and you in that district, what was your experience of using the BALA project? You started in the Anganwadis and scaled in the district. So, would you like to share what was your experience of building as learning aid for Anganwadis? What inspired you to start this, and what were the learnings, sir?
Okay, so Mashud, just a small correction that my journey as civil servant started in Devghar as a probationer, and the inspiration came from there. So when I was probationer, luckily I got the charge of district social welfare officer, which is a post for the Jharkhand administrative service officers. But luckily it was vacant, and my collector was kind enough to give me that post. And all the Anganwadis comes under these district social welfare officers. And luckily, on my tour to the rural areas of Devghar, I came across an Anganwadi which was so beautifully made that it made me feel, what is it, man? So there was a Sevika who was a widow. She had spent all her salaries, which is meager 4,500 per month, on the Anganwadi itself. And the kids were so vibrant. The Sevika was so dedicated. She literally had dedicated her life to the Anganwadi. And I have never been to such a government center so good in terms of the quality of education, in terms of the building she has made. She has literally painted the walls herself. The moment I saw that Anganwadi, I was so inspired. I thought, a Sevika with a salary of 4,500 per month, with no educational background like graduate or postgraduate, she is just a 12th pass girl, 12th plus pass lady. If she can do so much for 25 kids, God give me a chance to do something like this if I can be, part of this development. And that was the major source of inspiration, and I still quote that same lady everywhere. And I still find it amusing ki someday I will again visit that lady to tell her that it is you because of whom I could at least do something to my state, to the people of Jharkhand. So that was the main inspiration. So I never forget to mention that lady, because that is the selfless service. It is not about how much you donate, it is about how much you have and then how much you donate. So that was the inspiration. Later on, when I came to West Simbhum as Deputy Development Commissioner, I tried as a SDM also, but SDMship is more about law and order, so I did not have much to do related to development. So I was SDM in Hazaribagh. I could do a lot of law and order work, but nothing like this. But that was there always in my heart. So the moment I got posted in West Simbhum as Deputy Development Commissioner, so as DDC, you are literally the virtual leader of all these schools, Anganwadis, hospitals, and all. So the moment I arrived here, I started looking for the same opportunity, and luckily I got that. There are 2,100 Anganwadi centers in West Simbhum, and in a span of 20 months, I could transform more than 900, close to 1,000 Anganwadi centers into model Anganwadi centers. The only difference that I could make was just a finer version of what the lady had done in her own setup. So what I did initially is, because I also had no idea how to do it. So what I did initially is I selected a center named Gitilipi, which was very near to my office. And I thought, let's build it one by one. So just a background to the story of government organization or government contracts. So anything that you want to do in government needs an estimate. And anything that needs an estimate needs a schedule of rate. बट व्हेन आई टॉक टू माय इंजीनियर्स दे सेड कि सर ये खिलौने, ये पेंटिंग, ये बच्चों के लिए कुर्सी टेबल, इनका कोई एस्टिमेट नहीं होता. देयर इज नो एस्टिमेट फॉर दीज थिंग्स इन गवर्नमेंट. So if you ask me for estimate, I cannot give it. I can give estimate of rods, cement, bajri and all that, but I cannot give estimate of such things. And that was really shocking for me कि अब कैसे tender होगा. No, you cannot tender such things without having an estimate. And if you do something out of the blue, there are people who will be after you, even if you are doing it honestly. So I had no idea. So I thought, let's build one center with my own money or with the help of people in my office, and then we will finalize what all can be done. So Gitilipi was the center, and on a I would say 2 to 3 times a week I used to go there. For 1 to 2 months I dedicated my time there, and I finalized कि क्या क्या कर सकते हैं, what kind of paintings will be required, national symbols हैं, national animal है, national bird है, ये सब paint हो सकता है, all Varnmala should be there, all ABCD should be there. Then there should be beads in the rods of the window so that they can count through those beads. Then there should be 4 stickers on the gate, so that if there is a sticker with a insignia of namaste, if there is a sticker with the insignia of thumbs up, this and heart, so whenever the kid comes, the teacher will, if kid selects heart, the teacher will hug her or him. So the point was to to innovate how to welcome the kids, how to send the kids back. So what painting should be there? If there is a Karela, there are 3 blanks in that. What is the shape of this? What is the taste of this? What is the color of this? We used to just write color and then vacant. Then we need to discuss this with the kids. तो ऐसे करके एक करके कई चीजें हम लोगों ने लिखनी शुरू करी. Then routine, if 8 a.m. the kids arrive, then 8 to 8:30 the Sahika has to do this, Sevika has to do this. That was painted on the wall. So the parents also should know what should be done in Anganwadis. So I don't want to criticize the existing system, but the point is, if you go to any of the Anganwadi centers, you must be living in some of the districts only. So most of the Anganwadis of late have turned only into langars. There is no education system in that. And we had this idea that we want to convert these langars into nutri education centers. And that is the reason we did this Gitilipi thing. And then we finalized what all products we need, right from the toys to the dress for the kids, to the shoes, socks, everything. And also finalized the paintings, the color, the abstracts, everything else. And then we tendered it as a document. So first Anganwadi center was something we did on our own with a team of people. I had a probationer named Nitish. I had a team member of Ankita, Sangeeta. So these people were with us as aspirational district fellows or Swasth Bharat Preraks. So these were my assistant, my support, who actually did these finalizations. And after these nitty-gritties, we tendered 100 by 100. And we could achieve 1,000. We had funds from CSR also, Vedanta funded, Tata Steel funded, because the project was so nice, people started coming in. Once a good thing happens in government, trust me, there is no dearth of funds. After this BALA thing, I would just share the next step that we did was training of the Sevikas and Sahayikas. You have a building, you have Kaka Gaga written over it, you have all these toys with them, but what to do with them? Sevikas, Sahayikas are just a villager who are 10th or 12th pass, and then they join this job and they take it as langar only. But what is to be done, they had no idea. So we empaneled, we basically drafted a very detailed training program, and then floated an expression of interest. And a very good trainer institution named Titli got empaneled with us, and they trained the Sevika and Sahika. We trained a close to 1200 Sevikas and Sahikas in our district, in West Tirupur. And after that training, you won't believe it was a 10-day residential training program. During the training, we used to visit the training centers. After the training, we used to visit training centers. And you won't believe, good things travel faster than bad things. That's what people say. Whenever I visited any of the Anganwadi centers, the Sevikas and Sahikas will be like, sir, wo wala training kab ho raha hai, sir, hum log ko nahi karayenge, sir. मतलब if you talk to any government official and tell them कि training है, अच्छा ठीक है जाएंगे type का. Because it is never, they are never enthusiastic about trainings, because it is not as engaging, as beautiful, as good as it should be. But that training program was so engaging. They used to sing songs right from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. They used to get trained. The module was totally, engaging. Everybody was part of it. Songs, dances, drama, local language, use of local language, use of local materials. And the module was beautifully designed only to use local materials. I'll take just an example. If a kid comes inside, first day they will float leaves on their path. Second day they will float sand on their path. Third day bajri on their path. And then they ask, कैसा लगा चल के? Then the kids will take, नहीं अच्छा लगा, तो इसको मुलायम बोलते हैं, इसको कड़ा बोलते हैं, और पत्ते से आवाज आई तो बताओ बालू से आवाज क्यों नहीं आई? Because there is a change in the state of leaves. There is a kampan, something called kampan between them. That is, it is sounding and the balu is not sounding. So इस तरह करके उनको local material से पढ़ाने की कोशिश करें. There used to be, नारियल का खोपड़ा, in which we used to stick stickers and then make dholaks out of it. Then these chappals used to be formed. The circles used to be formed using chappals. Then made the kids sit inside it and tell them, ये circle है, ये triangle है, ये square है. Chappal is there already in the school. You don't need any materials, because the biggest fallout of the government is, जैसे ही ऐसा कुछ करना है, ढेर सारा सामान खरीद के आंगनवाड़ी में भेज देंगे. And that will be there. And if you go after 1 year, अच्छा कुछ सामान मिला था, हाँ सर रखे हैं. They will be kept in the box because they are scared कि अगर इधर उधर हो गया तो कुछ action हो जाएगा मेरे ऊपर. They will never open it from the box. And that is the reason we had this focus on the module, that we will train only using local materials. वो शंख होगा, वो गिट्टी होगा, वो बालू होगा, वो पत्ते होंगे, वो डाली होगी, इस तरह करके. So that was the overall picture of what was done in Anganwadis. And we believe that since it was just a makeshift thing, we believe that this should be replicated in all over the country and other places as well. Sure.
It is fascinating, totally and completely fascinating. So your journey is that of a true development person who's developing from the heart. You're taking from, developing a model, and then, seeing the results, improving on that model, and then and then expanding. And I think it's interesting to learn from your experience, because not just have you created successful Anganwadis, you actually made a successful model for implementation of similar programs. And I think using local material makes a lot of sense. Teachers become very creative as well. They enjoy, and it creates in them, I'm sure, intrinsic motivation, because a lot of the training out there is about extrinsic motivation and carrots and stick. The whole idea of, if you do this, if you don't do this, monitoring and so forth. And what you've done is something different, which is basically coming from within, not from without. Would you like to say a little bit more about, teacher training you've explained very well, about as a governance model? How would you recommend others do it? Because obviously you found difficulties along the way and found solutions. You also mentioned that once you started doing it, others kind of, there were resources. There was no lack of resources. So, how could we replicate that in other parts of the country? Would you like to share a little bit more about that?
Aditya ji, your mic is on mute.
So there is always a dearth of fund or resources in the district. That is what we all talk about in the government. But the point I wanted to make there is, if your intentions are right and if you do really something nice, there will be a lot of resources coming in. You won't believe the moment my work got noticed in different websites. I got calls from NBCC to help me in CSR. They said, "Ki, we will fund you as much as you want. Tell me what project you want." So there is never a dearth of fund if you really want something good to happen. So that is one thing. The second thing that I want to emphasize on is the part of governance that we are talking about here is, there are a lot of times when there is a risk to be taken, slowly, or with the conditioning or with the type of things that is happening in our society, the whole system is becoming risk averse. Nobody wants to take that leap of faith ki chalo ye badi cheeze kar lete hain, because there is a lot going on, behind the scene, in the front, in the fore screen, in the back screen. So there is a lot of things happening which creates inhibitions among bureaucrats and politicians both. So the point I want to make here is, there is a lot of trust deficit both in the system and outside the system, and there are times when you have to take that so-called risk to do such things, because this is something that is unconventional. If you want me to make buildings, it is very easy. I just will fund couple of engineers, they will go and make buildings, and those buildings will be someday, uh, buffaloes and cows will be staying in those buildings. So, and that is very easy to do in the setup that we work in. But the kind of work that we expect from bureaucrats, or the kind of work we want to do as bureaucrats, or the political class who want to do good work, it's very tough to do, because that is not mainstream, that is not which has been done since centuries or since decades. So governance part, I would say the society should start trusting the system. The society should know the system, how it works. So just to quote that thing, so when I was working with these projects, especially in education, health, Anganwadi centers as nutri education centers, I thought, why not? Why the youth? I'm also there on social media, so there used to be a lot of, and still today there is a lot of bashing on part of the youth who is not connected with the government. Ki yaar sarkar mein anything like that. So we started an internship program in this in that time, and we got more than 120 youth to join the district for a couple of months. 2 months they stayed with us. We got them posted in the Anganwadi centers, in the school, in the hospitals, and made them realize how tough it is to move even a pin in the government. So I would say there is a lot of trust deficit that has to be appraised. Apart from that, there has to be also a set of bureaucrats and masters, political masters, who has to take that risk, that leap of faith, to do something really nice for the country, for the state.
Yeah, actually, a follow-on question. If you don't mind, follow-on question would be in my mind.
Yeah.
What next for somebody as daring as you, somebody who is willing to take risk for the sake of society, and have already created that reputation where you can probably get away with murder, that you could probably do a lot of other great, amazing things in the field of education, especially because that's where we, at least coming from this vantage point, feel there's a huge deficit. Because if we can sort out education, we can sort out our country. So, what next in terms of your current assignments are you planning and will be doing?
I think there is a connection issue, so I've just switched on the video so that voice becomes clear. Ma'am, can you repeat your question, because it was not coming that
Right.
time?
My question is, somebody as daring as you, because we do need the dare out there, somebody who's already had a precedence of creating a lot of babal already. What next? What are you planning to do, which is, in the field of education, especially because we feel that if India's education can be sorted, then most everything can be sorted.
Okay, so see, for us, for bureaucrats, the postings change quite frequently, and the moment you get out of one post to the other post, so the whole thing changes. Your work profile changes, your things changes. So when COVID struck, I got posted as OSD Health, officer on special duty, because COVID was really. Then the work totally shifts from one of. Man.
So you can try the camera as well. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yes. So I think one thing which I would like to emphasize on again is what by the time Aditya ji joins back, he mentioned about making training more interesting. And he said that when he went to the various Anganwadis, there was, वहाँ पे जो workers थे, they were saying कि हमारे यहाँ पे training कब होगा, किस time पे होगा. So it really created, like it means that capacity building of the teachers as well has to be very interesting as well. So, Dr. Rani, would you like to share some of your thoughts on when we are talking about designing of these training programs for literacy and education? What are some important things that need to be kept in mind?
Okay, so when you're designing a training program, it has to be a pleasurable activity first and foremost. Because if the teachers feel it's a drag, they will not learn how to create joyfulness in their own classrooms. So, whatever we teach them in this session of training should be something that they can replicate in their own classroom experience, because they need to experience it to be able to do it differently. They only know a particular model of teaching, a particular way of doing something. And if you want them to do something dramatically different, they have to experience and feel it, and so you create the circumstance. B, you can also discuss uh, values and systems and their mindsets, which are very very important, because there is a mindset, a crisis. They feel that बच्चों को डांटेंगे तभी वो सीखेंगे, for example. That's a mindset issue. Or कि minimum is okay, not accomplishing a lot over a month is okay. So all these mindsets have to be changed. No, there's a lot that can be done. Children are highly capable. That when you're teaching in a joyful learning way, that every child will be more attracted. You will see the results in greater attendance of the children. So many indicators will be there for you, which will make your life even more exciting and more joyful. So, and you'll make a big contribution as well. So that mindset issue. And thirdly, particular methodologies, because not a priori do they know all the new ways of doing things. They need to be introduced in a gentle, kind way, without making them feel that they're not capable, because they actually are. They just have not been exposed to those ideas. And the fourth aspect will be creativity. So you cannot give them so much of a formula that they can't create. And I really love what Aditya ji said regarding the idea of using local materials. For example, the rustling of the leaves, the wraith, all different kinds of passages by which the children would pass, and they'd be able to say, "Aisa hai, vaisa hai," and rough and smooth, and so many concepts can be discussed using local materials. So they can be very creative as to what can they use in creating this. But what are the guiding principles? What are the things that they absolutely should be using in terms of guiding principles for their endeavor? For example, that to have every child succeed is a guiding principle. To ask every child to do every activity is a guiding principle. To not compare children with each other is a guiding principle. To talk languages of empowerment or languages of encouragement rather than languages of reprimand, which is saying you can't do this, get away from here, or that kind of language really actually brings out the least in children and also spoils their future potential. When we visualize children in a way that they're all capable and they can accomplish anything they wish to, and I think I'm one believer of that concept, because I've seen the results of that belief system on the children and their performance at all levels, including high school and inter level. So when we're dealing with little children, their minds are very, very vulnerable, and their hearts are very open. And if you tell that heart that, oh, you're not capable of doing something, they will actually believe you, and they lose all courage. So I think these are soft skills of a teacher, which are very necessary to introduce them to the ideas, maybe through role plays, through dramas, and the more interesting, as Aditi ji has said, the more interesting that you make the training program, the more you will have stickiness of it, because they'll remember that experience and they'll want to replicate that in their classrooms.
Right, absolutely, and I think because the main intervention or the main agent of change is the that adult, or is that facilitator or teacher who's there with the child. It becomes even more important for the person to be in it, to have his or her heart in that process as well. Um, Here, I would like to also ask you, Sunita ji, as to how we can ensure that this link between preschool and the early grades is kind of it comes together. So while the policy is looking at the foundational as one single stage, they're not looking at preschool and early grade and as separate things. But institutionally, it is still the structure of Anganwadis is separate, the schools are separate, and not all schools have preschools within them. So how can we ensure that as a whole, as a community, we are able to bridge any gap which might be there?
So I really, we are still waiting for Aditya ji to try and get back in, and Tanmay may please facilitate that. We know it's a network issue, but we definitely need to hear from him. When we are talking about the transition between Anganwadi and the primary school, we can say that look, the once the government has set out a particular vision for education in the coming decades, that blueprint is going to ensure that all the institutions are able to comply, are able to somehow figure out a way. For example, now they're combining primary schools and junior schools in Uttar Pradesh, for example, all over the country. And it's creating new sets of problems and opportunities. So the principal, who is the principal of junior school, saying, I will not share my sports teacher with the primary school. And there are power struggles. And they're natural. But the system will sort itself out, because once the direction has been taken that the primary and junior schools will collapse into one, I think the next step is to sort out those kinds of issues. And within no time, historically speaking, this will be sorted out, and for the better, we hope. Because actually, there was a resource allocation issue. You have teachers, principals, heads, if you like, of different centers, and really many of the schools of the government are very, very small, meaning less than 50 children. I think, I forget, but something like 30% of the schools are just under 50 children, and many more are also below 20 children. So if that is the case, uh, then obviously there's a lot of capacity, human capacity, that's not getting used, like the teacher or the principal. And by combining, it makes a lot of economic sense. But beyond economic sense, when there is a synergy of various teachers in a particular bubbling environment, then obviously you've got more hands to do what we need to do. And then combine it with a dramatically different training, a dramatically different vision to what is possible. For example, that a deliberate practice of doing project work in mixed stages. The new education policy talks about that. So let's say look at the Anganwadi and the primary 1 and 2, which is the first stage in the NEP, the first 5 years of learning, up to class 2, and they get combined into one physical space. They're in the same school building. The advantage will be that the children who are a little advanced in their learning will be happy or able to help the children who are not so advanced. So it creates a net good, as according to Dr. Maria Montessori, and her whole system of education is based on the idea of mixing the ages. Though in their system is 3 years, it can actually be conceptualized as a greater mixing as well. So in different formats, children can come together, not just the one where the teachers just taking single age classes. So I think it presents a lot of opportunity, and these are going to make more rounded individuals rather than more pointed individuals. And we when we grow up, we come out of school into workplace. We don't say, "Oh, you're 1 year younger than me, I will not talk to you." Uh, so the reality is we don't even care what age you are. We work together. And similarly, when they learn the skills to do teamwork, they bring that skill into their workplace. And this is a necessary skill for learning in the 21st century. So we need to rearrange not just our thinking, but conveying that thinking to the teachers and showing them how, using, for example, teamwork or group work or pair work, they can create success stories for all children, and a greater success story, because now they've got these co-teachers, the little ones, and they learn so many leadership skills in the process. And these are the lacking skills in schools.
Absolutely. I think here we would also like to show our viewers one of our experiments which we did here at Global Dream in a village called Karoni. And we would like to show the video first where we saw that 22 women from the Karoni village in Lucknow district were given like a 2 hour orientation session, and they were able to really take up literacy for a lot of other adults as well, right? I think we will also be having Aditya Ranjan sir join back in a minute as well. I think there was some connection issue. Um, right. So we like to welcome back Aditya Ranjan ji. Yes,
I'm
sir.
extremely sorry,
Can you
Mashud.
hear us?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so
No
that's
issues, sir.
the disadvantage of being posted in rural areas. You have other challenges related to electricity, internet, and all that. Sorry for that
Yes.
interruption. So, can we continue with
Yes.
the discussion? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you were saying something about in your present position
Yeah.
in the rural development department. So here the one question which we all were also interested, because we realized that literacy is a major challenge in rural areas as well. In aap rural development, where there are so many large projects which you're leading, etc. So, do you feel that literacy, low literacy rates in certain communities, does it pose any challenges in the rural development projects which the government implements?
Also, the question of governance, you were
See,
talking about that. Governance also, you were
yes.
talking about that, and how it can be replicated across the country.
So, Mashud, rural development, what we believe in, it's not basically one thing which is there in the RDD. So, RDD is a big department. It has multiple projects, multiple departments going on inside it. So, I'll just take a couple of examples. So, RDD contains of Panchayati Raj. So, I am Director Panchayati Raj in RDD. So, I look after all the panchayats. Apart from that, there is something called Narega, which is a different department inside RDD. There is a REO which builds Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. There is PMGSY unit. Other than that, there is Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which builds Awas for the poor. So there are different units inside RDD. So directly, I would not say there is any direct connection between uh, literacy per se and the RDD. But still, since uh, RDD as a department is the biggest department that touches most of the lives of the people in any of the state, it can do wonders in terms of anything that you pick in. So of late, I have been Director Panchayati Raj. So there are 4,500 panchayats. There are close to 4,500 panchayats. So there are 4,500 sarpanch. So there are panchayat sachivs who are working assistants to the panchayat sarpanch, and there are different units, different employees related to that. The major focus that panchayats look after is the basic amenities, to provide the basic amenities to the villagers. Of late, when I joined as Panchayati Raj Director, I have started a couple of things. One related to the technology, where I inspect at least 5 to 8 schemes through video call mode, which has created a good culture in terms of quality of schemes and quality of file work that they do at the village and panchayat level, because the training is very scarce when you go to the downwards of the setup of the government or the bureaucracy. So that is one part. Other than that, we have been trying to ensure that all the Anganwadi centers, all the schools, all the hospitals get a proper running water with the proper washroom facilities, because that is one of the biggest challenges for the rural areas in terms of hindering the growth of the kids. You have a very good kid who is out of SAM and MAM recently, but once he gets into diarrhea, gets into typhoid, gets into any of the disease, he or she falls back to the same position of nutrition levels. So that is one of the biggest issues that I have seen in the field when I was Deputy Development Commissioner. So as RD Panchayat Raj Director, I'm trying to ensure that we will ensure 100% running water and uh, good washroom facilities in all the institutional centers that is being used by maximum people of the villages.
Right, sir. Sir, also many of the rural development schemes these days we are seeing that it's also requiring some level of digital literacy as well. For example, if you have to register on a portal or even now access to healthcare is also becoming more digital. So in this case, do you feel that literacy in rural India, especially of the adults, if we talk about, what is the importance of literacy in rural India to ensure that the rural development projects become successful, the schemes are successfully, accessed and benefited from?
So that's a really nice question, Masood. I would say we all believe in the same fact that education can be the only and the next weapon to bring the real change that we expect, because that comes with a lot of awareness, a lot of empowerment, a lot of discussions in course, which is the right thing to do. So I would say in rural areas, one use of technology. So one thing that is a major concern in rural areas is the connectivity. There is a lot of shadow areas in the villages, and the other thing is the accessibility to the devices. So last year when COVID struck, I was DDC only in West Simbhum. So we tried to do something let's start the online classes for the kids the way the private schools are doing. And a survey was done with the kids, and close to 80% did not have a smartphone. And even if they had, it was with the parents, with the father mostly, who was going out for work in the daytime, which was the prime time for the education. So we see in our households, our kids, our the family members' kids, they use our phones, or they have an additional phone for the exclusive classrooms. But that is not there in the villages. Close to 80%, I'm saying. Only 10 to 15% agreed to have a phone. That too will have very minimal facilities related to internet. That too will have a very minimum uh, e-literacy, digital literacy to handle those phones. So it's very tough to do those things in rural areas, especially with kids. With adults, yeah, we can do it. We can do it in a yes, we can do it, and we can do it in a very, very good way. In fact, the digital penetration that has reached in last 2 3 years has helped rural population, especially adult population, to learn a lot. Even if you have not studied anything, if you have to search something on Google, you have to type that, right? So right from A to Z, you start typing that, even if you have not read that. So that has helped a lot. People have tried and then learned a lot of both language and how to use smartphones. Apart from that, the second part that we were discussing, how to do that, what will be the next thing to do? I would say next thing to do is mass scale training for the youth, because today what we have seen is maybe the parents of the age of 40 plus 50 plus might not be adaptive enough and might not be in the need of smartphones, but kids in their 20s might not be having other amenities but will have smartphones even in rural areas. So when I was Deputy Development Commissioner in West Simbhum, we started a digital training program. Basically, it was to teach kids about basics of computers, in which we trained close to 2100 kids. So the internship that I was mentioning about, so the interns had come from IIT, from BIT, from NIT, from TIS, from DSSW, so different colleges of the country they had come. So we picked up computer science graduates from those colleges, final year students, basically not graduates, final year engineering students of computer science. We picked up them, and then we made them teach the rural kids. And the best part of the program was we could train 2100 students in a span of less than 8 months. Apart from that, the Better part was we had students in the class in which there was a father-daughter duo, there was a son-father duo. So it was really heartening to see them coming. So the module was of 30 days. Every Saturday we had a test. If 50% of the marks you get in all four tests, you will get certified. And the even more heartening is the fact is that when we started calling them up for other works, other trainings, most of them had some job or the other in some of the centers. Someone was working in big bazaar, some was working in a pharmacy, pharmaceutical centers, some were working in hospitals, schools, different places. So that was really heartening. So I believe we can train these youth uh, through digital literacy. Most of them have smartphones these days, and the next way forward would be maybe in a decade or so. 100% of us will know basics of internet, basics of computers, and through computers and basics of internet, we can teach our next generation kids.
It's fascinating, absolutely brilliant, unbelievable. Wanted to add to this that maybe there is a formulation in here when you're talking mass scale training of the youth, that we can train them to a purpose as well. For example, because they are more likely to have a mobile, even in the rural areas, that they could be the teachers or the mentors for literacy. So, ambassadors of literacy, or agents of change, where they go about and do certain sets of things with their digital platform in their hands. We have created something interesting in terms of literacy, where they can just download these modules, and they can do offline, online, and start teaching. And within a month, the adult or the child will be able to read a newspaper. So it is something worth looking into, and perhaps combining the forces, our experience of creating a very quick tool for making people literate, along with mass mobilization. That is one thing. And the second thing would be about governance, or like government order rather, where we make it compulsory for university graduates, like many countries it is happening, where college level students, like 10th and 12th, or even beyond university level students, are required to do a social service component. But not in our country as much. We wish it was more. So make it compulsory, at least for a period of time, say 1 year or 2 years, where the youth is expected to get, say, so many marks, or at least that the certification will not be possible even without marks, will not be possible unless they made at least one person literate. And if that making that one person literate is a 30-hour proposition, at least in our case, so that could be made compulsory for all students, that they have to give 30 hours of their time during the university period to make at least one person literate before they graduate that 1 year worth of education, because India needs that. And this could be a precedence for the entire country, because actually we need to start this kind of process rolling, and you've already done the youth mobilization part of it.
Right. So the like
So rightly said, Neetaji. So I would say there was a team of Niti Ayog which came to West Simum to see the model of internship that we did. So you can Google it up, internship West Simum, and see what kind of work we did. And then they had the same idea, and they thought of sending a letter to NASCOM, which in turn sent letters to all the universities, all the colleges, that you can promote, not mandate, as you quoted that we can mandate. Definitely we can mandate, and we should mandate in near future. But essentially that time it was more like, something as an option that we can do this, so that the youth who is in final year of college will do a 2 months internship with the local uh, government institutions, and then later on they can build on part of their curriculum itself. So there can be a set of marks related to it, there can be a set of grades related to it, and we can make it compulsory. Just so, in fact, in the PowerPoint presentation that I made related to internship, I quoted how government is planning to make doctors mandatory to serve in rural areas or in the place that they have got degree for a couple of years. Why can't we do for a couple of months for the engineers? They are way lot more in numbers, and they can at least not, if not anything else, they can be one of the finest teachers that we can have. So that can be a very beautiful idea. idea. If it is not at the school level, because school going kids, it will be very tough for them to go out and then stay in a village out of their family initially, because they have most of the kids mostly go out of their own city, on own house after +2. But in a college level, definitely we should start it right away, mandating the kids to work in these areas for a couple of months, for 3 4 months, and then submit a project report related to it, and on the basis of that we can put grades to it. And trust me, the best part that would come out of it is at least 10% of this empowered, this energetic youth, if gets mainstreamed to work in these sectors, nothing like it.
Absolutely, it'll be and lifelong kind of commitment from these young people, which will come naturally as a result. I have been doing this, by the way, on an experimental basis at the college level and even at the school level. So we've had children as young as grade 5 going out and taking our toolkit and teaching somebody. And initially, we started it in Lucknow, which is where we are based. And the first year that this toolkit was made, I was able to, I was having this hair raising experience with it, because the young people from schools were educating the children in their own like homes, who are maids or people from the village or the slum nearby. And that first year, that is 2014, we had 150 schools. These are primarily the private schools, but budget private schools, most of them. They agreed to adopt the program in their school, and we gave out 67,000 toolkits that year. And so 67,000 children got involved. Over a period of last 4 years before the COVID, there have been 500,000 children across the country who have gone out and made people literate using this toolkit. And it's in 13 Indian languages, including Bengali and Urdu, which are two of the languages in your area, Hindi, of course, and English. So 13 languages have allowed us to reach out to schools in the rural landscape, in the schools in the slums, and in the schools in many parts of the country, including Telangana, so many states. So I'd like to have Mashood maybe has something to share here, but would like to propose that we do a pilot of this kind of thing. Like you've always had an approach of do a pilot first and then scale up, because we then fine tune any kind of things that don't go so well. If school level children can teach and make somebody literate, then surely the students at the university level can. And 30 hours is not a long time. Like, it's a 15-minute per day commitment for 3 months. So 15 minutes per day to कोई भी बच्चा दे देगा, कोई भी adult दे देगा, क्योंकि our methodology doesn't require 2 hour classes or 1 hour class. It's 15-minute classes. It's very simple. It's a lot of mind connections. It's a lot of working in the head, cognitive connections. It's not about rote learning. So anyway, just something worth considering. Did we just lose Sir again?
Yes, I think we're facing some challenges from Sir's side. So I think, I mean, hopefully we'll have Sir join back for the concluding remarks. But I think one aspect which Aditya Ranjan ji also said was to involve young people as well. It is, the problem of literacy is so large that it is something which teachers alone will not be able to deal with, because a lot of children and a lot of adults, especially at this time during COVID, are outside the fold of school education. We really, what we really need is a movement of people, of something which was, as you mentioned in the previous session, also something which was done in Ernakulam, something which was done in the Pulse Polio campaign, where everyone gets involved. And the prerequisite for that is, of course, commitment from the government, but also having simple materials, simple primers, a methodology which everyone can relate to, which is intuitive and works as well. Dr. Gandhi, would you like to share? You were sharing your experience about using these toolkits with school children. What Aditya ji also said, that it was elevating for the university students to come and teach in the rural areas. So do you think a similar kind of a program can be done for school children as well, where uh, they're working in the rural areas as well? I think Aditya Ranjan sir has just joined back also.
Let him answer immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, So I think I was answering, but it got disconnected. So the point that I was wanting to make there was, so the basic thing that I wanted to note was, if you start something like this, I would love to be part of that. And apart from that, it's something good starts, you know. So even if we think about 15 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, something nice that is going to be floated in the system, the time is never a limit. I was just quoting a few minutes back. So when we thought of starting training programs for these youth in computer training centers, for these sevikas, for the uh, good education system, तो we thought कि 6 घंटे तो बहुत होंगे, 6 hours से ज़्यादा क्या सेविका ट्रेनिंग करेगी. No, they are village people. They have just studied 10th and 12th, and you won't believe it was so engaging, and they never got tired. We got tired of training them, but they never got tired of being trained. So it was a 13-hour session per day. Apart from that, the computer literacy program that we started, in that also we had students who used to travel by train. So for 1 hour class, they used to travel close to 8 hours. So that is the beauty of good things. When you start something really nice, really good, time is never a limit, money is never a limit. It literally expands.
So here at this point, I would like to share a very small glimpse of in one experiment which we did in literacy in a village of Karoni in Lucknow as well. जैसे मैम ने बताया कि ये हमारा जो लिटरेसी का ये जो एक्सपेरिमेंट है ये हमने काफी स्कूल के बच्चों के साथ भी किया, where they were generally children are on the other side of learning. They sit and the teacher teaches them, but here we had where we had school children become teachers. And
Okay.
here, the kind of empowerment, like you mentioned, that it is very important to have materials or to have a learning kind of a process जो कि जिससे learners connect कर पाए, जिससे बच्चे connect कर पाए. So we have experimented this upside down methodology जो बिल्कुल ही लिटरेसी को उल्टा कर देता है. जनरली हम अ से अनार पढ़ाते हैं, ब से बतख पढ़ाते हैं, राइट? वी स्टार्ट विद अल्फाबेट्स. So a lot of rote learning happens, and after a lot of memorization, children remember it. But we realized that it was not very effective, and what we did was the opposite. So we created a very thin toolkit where the images of objects which the learner already is aware of, उनकी भाषा में वो चीज है, बट शायद उनको अगर लिखा हो तो पढ़ना नहीं आएगा. And from there we would
Exactly.
say कि अच्छा ये तरबूज है, तो we would ask. So the focus was on getting the answer from the learner. अगर हम लर्नर को बता देते हैं कि ये तरबूज है, इसको याद करो, तो उनका दिमाग चलेगा नहीं, वो फिर आदी हो जाएंगे कि टीचर आके बता देगा. So we would be like asking questions and waiting. ये क्या है? So the learner would be like, ये तरबूज है. अच्छा, तरबूज की पहली आवाज क्या है? So there the learner would be like, अच्छा तरबूज की पहली आवाज पता नहीं, मतलब ऐसे. So we would be like, अच्छा तरबूज तरबूज, तो पहली आवाज क्या है? So then they would identify कि खुद ही वो बताएंगे कि हाँ त है. And then from the we would introduce this abstract concept of alphabet जो कि त ऐसे दिखने में है. And in the very first session they would be able to remember कि हाँ तरबूज मतलब त. And उसी तरीके से कछुए से क निकाल के, in the very first session we would teach the learner would be able to learn two letter words in the very first 10-minute session. Whereas generally जब हम alphabets पढ़ाते हैं तो कई sessions के बाद हम उनको words बनाना सिखाते हैं. And sir, what our experience was in this experiment was that when the learner is able to learn very quickly in the first session and by themselves, not by the teacher, but by themselves, by their own mind connections, the confidence in the learner, whether it is a small child or whether it is a 60-year-old person, and we have tried it with both, they are just so excited. They're like, कि चलो दो हो गया, मुझे अब अगले अल्फाबेट को बताओ, अभी अभी दूसरा अक्षर बताओ मुझे. So this is what we wanted to share with you, and we created these lessons, which ma'am also mentioned that this has been replicated in 13 languages, including Hindi, English, Urdu, Bengali, and we want that all the languages, be it in Jharkhand, be it in other states. This is a very powerful methodology and very simple methodology, which we would like to replicate in, and we would want young people to take up the mission of literacy and take it forward. Because if young people join this, then everything will change very fast as well. I also wanted to show you one very small glimpse, because you are working in, in your major focus has been in rural areas. So we also did this small experiment with 22 women in Keroni village, which is in Lucknow. And what we saw here was that women, with they were just looking for an opportunity to serve. So unka education zyada nahi tha. Most of them were class 5, some of them were class 8 pass. But jab humne unko bola ki kya aap padhayenge, so they were just surprised. They were like कि अरे हम कहाँ हैं, हम तो पूरे पढ़े भी नहीं है, अपने बच्चों की पढ़ाई में भी हेल्प नहीं कर पाते. But we trained them in this using this very simple methodology, and in just a matter of a year, they made the whole village literate. All the women were made literate, nearly 800 villages. This was also covered in some of our online platforms like Better India, Logical Indian also. And when we asked them कि why did you do this? What motivated you? आपने बिना compensation के क्यों काम किया? So the two words which they said was samman. The first one was samman, and the second one was
Correct.
people also started calling us teacher. So it just gave us that respect. So we just wanted to show you a small glimpse of some of the learners here.
कि चलो पढ़ो, पढ़े में मन लागत है, अस्पताल गए अपन टाइम करो, चल हो, अब यूं हमका आराम है. अब बच्चन का नाम लिख लेते हैं, थोड़ा थोड़ा भले भूल जाए, नहीं बच्चन का नाम लिख लेते, कारट आवत है, न्योता वाला, दावत वाला, वो भी हम कि हमारा है कि उनसे पूछो, उनसे हम कहला हम पढ़ ले. जब हम घुमा गए वहाँ विंध्याचल, तो वहाँ जब गाड़ी सब कोई ढूंढे ला, गाड़ी नहीं मिली, तो हम कहें चलो हम गाड़ी देखम, जौन बस पर आए हैं वह हम ढूंढ कर हम मतलब बताई चले. तो नखला गाड़ी में है लिखा, तो हम कहें यह गाड़ी हमारी है. और पहले नहीं हम जाने तो नहीं तो रही.
अब पहले तो वो कुछ भी नहीं कर पाते थे, साइन भी अपनी अंगूठा लगाते थे, अब साइन भी करने लगे हैं.
पढ़ाई लिखाई में तो हमको बहुत अच्छा लगता है. लाभ इसमें बहुत लाभ है. किसी की जमीन है, किसी का कोई घर है, कोई कब्जा करना चाहता, लिखाना चाहता है तो लिखवा नहीं सकता. अपनी बहू से कहते हैं हमें कि तुमने पढ़ो, फिर धीरे धीरे पढ़ने लगी, फिर पढ़ने जाने लगी. हम भी जाते, बहू भी जाते.
हम लोग पढ़ने लगे, साइन भी करना सीख लिया, और छोटे छोटे शब्द जो हैं वो भी पढ़ने सीख लिया, लिखना सीख लिया.
Right. So we just we had this experiment, and we felt that it was something which really एक movement की तरह वो उस village को literate बनाया गया था, and they got very excited. And common people, we इसमें कोई trained teachers, trained volunteers नहीं था. 1-2 घंटे का session किया था, and then it just the journey went on. So this is also something which we wanted to share with the audience and with Aditya sir also. So I think
this is really beautiful, Mashood. I will just share a couple of lines related to it. So what has happened in our country is we have associated every work with a prior designation. That means teacher है तो उसको TET करना जरूरी है, PET करना जरूरी है. You can find very good teachers who have not even done any B.Ed like course. No, so ये वाला जो perception है ना, this has hampered a lot in terms of peer learning. And this is really nice. The project was really beautiful, and I believe this peer learning, if that can happen in villages, so there are a couple of model villages where we do a similar thing, in which we tag one literate women with 2 illiterate ones, and we say कि ये जो दिन में आप बातें करते हैं कि his daughter-in-law did this and her mother-in-law did this, rather than that you can discuss about how can you teach each other. So this peer learning has revolutionized that place, and when we did Aam Sabha, the first Aam Sabha, 10% people could sign, and 90% did this thumb impressions. And the next Aam Sabha after 4 months only, because we tagged nearby women only. So they sit on a daily basis. Anyway, they sit in the afternoons after the lunch, before going for sleep. So we just distributed couple of slates and we tagged them कि आप एक दूसरे को करिए. This is really beautiful idea. I believe that if this can be done on a mass scale, on a better scale, basics of learning, basics of alphabets and basic operations of arithmetics can be taught very easily.
Ji, sir. And I'd like to follow on mention this idea of 1:2 is a fantastic idea. But sometimes you don't get 1:2 opportunity because the number of illiterates is a lot more. And what happened in Karani was fascinating because we gave them a dabba with enough samagri for 20 learners and 2 maths. And we gave them some 2 hours of training on 2 different days. And somehow they decided कि करना है. And they were having lots of challenges at the beginning. They were saying कि ladies आते नहीं, हमको के घर जाते हैं, इकट्ठा करते हैं, कुछ आते हैं, कुछ नहीं आते. But they did not give up and they wanted to prove themselves. And because of this, dabba and all that, they felt morally kind of obligated as well, perhaps. They did not give up. And suddenly, कारवां बनता गया, लोग जुड़ते गए. और फिर वो non-stoppable हो गया. It became, like the helpers high, they started to feel, and then these women, started to gather together. It became like a mini kitty party for them. They could actually get together as well. So while पढ़ाई 15 मिनट की होती थी, चिट चैट करके 1 घंटे वो लोग बैठते थे आराम से. तो ये बहुत पावरफुल एक्सपेरिमेंट रहा. अब उसके बाद हमने सोचा कि अगर हम नॉर्मल लिटरेसी प्रोग्राम्स को देखते हैं तो उसमें नाम सिखाना एंड में होता है. तो अभी ने नाम सिखाने वाली बात जो आपने कही, तो हम लोगों ने अभी एक्सपेरिमेंट हाल में किया, लाइक ड्यूरिंग द कोविड पीरियड, कि हाउ अबाउट टीचिंग देम नेम विदाउट हैविंग टू टीच देम द अल्फाबेट फर्स्ट. ठीक है, ना स्वर, ना व्यंजन, ना मात्रा, बट उनको नाम सिखा दो पहले. तो कितना समय लगेगा? तो उसमें निकल के आया कि कुछ बंदे जो है 2 सिटिंग में, 3 सिटिंग माने 15 या 20 मिनट मैक्सिमम. तो 15 मिनट में 2 सिटिंग में, 3 सिटिंग में, दे आर लर्निंग टू राइट देयर नेम. इट्स दैट सिंपल. So why not create a method around it? So we've made now a methodological video how to teach somebody their name in a very simple, easy way. वो विजुअल है सारा, तो वो वीडियो दिखा दें सब लर्नर्स को, इवन वॉलंटियर्स को, इवन स्कूल स्टूडेंट्स को, एंड सेट इट अप एज अ चैलेंज, नेम लिटरेसी चैलेंज, कि हाउ मेनी कैन यू मेक नेम लिटरेट. And children will get going. They love these challenges. And केवल अगर 2-3 sittings में या 5-6 sittings में कोई illiterate person can become not अंगूठा छाप and become capable of signing their name, that will be so awesome. So we felt huge empowerment in the ladies, like their identity suddenly becoming real to them. So that empowerment that comes is big. Secondly, the what we found also became a pull strategy for literacy. So now they want to connection हो ही गया है volunteer से, तो अब वो connection में वो literate भी बनना चाहते हैं. तो next goal post we give them कि चलो अखबार पढ़ने लायक हो जाओगे तुम 15 दिन में, 20-20 मिनट, 15 मिनट. इनफैक्ट वी से डोंट मेक इट मोर देन 15 मिनट. तो 15 मिनट के 20 दिन में आप जो है अखबार पढ़ने लायक हो जाओगे. दे गेट रियली एक्साइटेड एंड देन दे लर्न ऑल्सो. सो इट पुल्स देम इनटू द नेक्स्ट प्रोसेस एंड द नेक्स्ट प्रोसेस. देन आप लिखने लायक हो जाओगे. हम लोग लिखना और पढ़ना मिक्स नहीं करते, पहले पढ़ाना सिखाते हैं, फिर लिखना सिखाते हैं. तो नेम लिखना पहले सिखा दिया सबसे पहले, उसके बाद फिर बाकी जो अल्फाबेट का है वो, क्योंकि हम 15 मिनट से ज्यादा लंबा नहीं करना चाहते. और जब माइंड में बैठ गए लेटर्स तो फिर लिखना बड़ा आसान हो जाता है उनके लिए. नेक्स्ट थिंग तो एड्रेस लिखना, फॉर्म भरना, ये सारी चीजें हम आपको नेक्स्ट सिखाएंगे. 5 दिन लगेंगे. फिर उसको हम बताते हैं न्यूमरेसी में आपको 10 दिन लगेंगे. तो इस तरह करके वो बहुत ही जल्दी सब सीख जाते हैं. मैक्सिमम इट इज 3 months टाइम, 15 मिनट पर डे. तो हर बच्चा कर सकता है, हर एडल्ट कर सकता है, और हर यूनिवर्सिटी वाला बच्चा कर सकता है. स्पेशली द नेम लिटरेसी, इट्स सच अ नेचुरल.
True that, really wonderful, Sunita ji.
We move towards the final part of the conversation. हमारा एक ऑडियंस से भी हमें एक क्वेश्चन आया है सर, वो हमें लेना चाहेंगे. अनुश्री is asking ki we know about your initiative Wonders on Wheel. Kindly share more about this initiative. तो इसके बारे में आप briefly perspective share करना चाहेंगे?
So I would say the probation days inspiration again. So when I went to a couple of schools in Devghar. So these were government schools of +2 schools, and we found that there were no science labs in these schools. And if you go to these government schools, you will find ki, yes, there is a budget every year, it is there, but there is nobody to maintain. In some schools there is a physics teacher, there is no chemistry teacher, because there is a scarcity of specific teachers. एक स्कूल में 15 टीचर होंगे, पर ये गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम है ना, तो थोड़ा what would I say, the rationalization is not perfect, because somebody is relative and they got posted in the urban area. So one school will have 4 Hindi teachers, other school will have 4 English teachers, or some schools will have no science teachers. तो साइंस का ना बहुत लैकिंग था. दूसरा मेरा कॉन्सेप्ट था कि why there is a lack of science teachers. When there was a recruitment of teachers, science teachers in my district, I found कि geography के लिए 50 application है for one post. For science, for maths, there is limited applications. There are 2 posts and 4 applications, or if not even 2 applications in some cases. Then I realized that nobody is taking science as a stream after 12th, after 10th in these villages. And the basic reason, they don't love it enough. 1, they have been made to believe that it is tough, you won't be able to pass. 2, and 3, that it is a costly affair to study science. And since that is there in the minds and hearts of the kids of the rural areas, it has become a cyclic affair. Since there is no science taking kids, there will be no science teachers, right? Because they only will become someday science teacher. And I was very fascinated by science since my childhood days. So I thought, let's keep an experiment in which let me make kids interested towards science. Then what I did is I collected couple of equipments, कुछ beakers खरीद लिए, कुछ pH papers खरीद लिए, कुछ ऐसे छोटे छोटे सामान खरीद के अपनी गाड़ी में रख के और घूम कर स्कूल में एक क्लास कराने लग गया. उससे ना देखा मैंने बच्चों में, obviously science is always more fascinating than humanities because outcomes are visible. If it is 100 degrees Celsius, it will definitely boil. You know, I can be bad or good, that can be an opinion. But if it is 100 degrees Celsius, the water will boil definitely, no matter what. So that outcome orientation of science, that definite nature of science makes it way more interesting than humanities. And that I wanted to develop in the kids. So when I did that experiment, huge number of kids got affiliated towards it, started loving it. तो मेरे दिमाग में एक आइडिया आया कि टीचर्स की भी कमी है, लैब्स फंक्शनल नहीं है, सभी स्कूल में एक साथ लैब फंक्शन करना बहुत टफ है, कहीं केमिस्ट्री लैब फंक्शनल होगा तो केमिस्ट्री टीचर नहीं होगा. सो आई बॉट अ व्हीकल, पुट ऑल दीज इक्विपमेंट्स इनसाइड, put physics, chemistry, biology, 3 teachers in that, 1 lab assistant in that, and then made the wheels roll. So in a span of 1 month, I could cover 128 schools. In Chaibasa, there are 3 vehicles. In West Simbhum, there are 3 vehicles. All these 3 vehicles go from one school to the other school. And since we have notified 1 classroom in each school for the Wonder on Wheels, ये पहले ही जाके सारा सेटअप करके रखते हैं. बच्चे क्लास में आते हैं, उनको एक क्लास एक्सपेरिमेंट का होता है, 9th क्लास चला गया बाहर, फिर 8th क्लास आया, 8th क्लास को एक्सपेरिमेंट कराते हैं, फिर वो बाहर चला गया. And mind you, the module that we have developed is very basic. What is sound, what is light, something like that. And the modules were developed by a couple of IIT guys only who were interning with us. It's a 60 module program, and in which if we go on a weekly basis also, in 1 year we can cover the whole science thing.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Wow.
Sunita ji herself is a physicist. She has a PhD in physics. So Sunita ji, I'm sure you would want to really share your thoughts on this very interesting project.
I think Aditya ji, we need replicating him across the country. That's all. Everything will be solved. India's education will be in fantastic hands. I mean, these are like, grassroots-led innovations that make a lot of sense in every whichever way we cut the pie. So I think we need sir, मेरे को ये लग रहा है कि अगर आपका ये जो 60 एक्सपेरिमेंट वाला है, हम लोग इधर यूपी में ट्राई कर लें, तो आपसे हमें मदद मिल जाएगी इन द सेंस कि आपके जो कॉलीग्स हैं वो हमें थोड़ा गाइड कर देंगे. Plus some of the other innovations, we'd like to try them out here in UP as well.
Definitely, Sunita ji, मैं अपनी टीम को बता दूंगा. I'll share the model. Whatever I have done a good SOP as well. So I'll share the SOP also, the modules as well. तो how to build it, what experiments we did. पहले फेज में तो हमने सीधा शुरू किया टाइट्रेशन मेथड से और सीधा शुरू किया कॉनकेव लेंस, कॉन्वेक्स लेंस से. देन वी रियलाइज्ड कि इन बच्चों को तो मतलब फिजिक्स का पी नहीं पता है. देन वी स्टार्टेड इट लाइक चलो व्हाट इज लाइट से शुरू करते हैं. then we will see what is happening. A very basic science we have done in class 7, 8, 9, 10 के लिए develop किया है. It has done wonders. अभी तो COVID में schools बंद हो गए, then the vehicles also stopped. That is very disheartening for us. It makes me cry within, but still whatever it could do, it was good enough. And if even 10 kids take science as a stream, my experiment is successful.
I think this is awesome. And 128 schools with one vehicle. I think this is such a scalar proposition. It doesn't cost much, and it fulfills a high need. And we can think of similar models for more or less everything else. It's so amazing, really amazing.
Absolutely wonderful.
You're a scientist par excellence.
Right. On that very interesting note, we would like to thank Aditya Ranjan ji. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time on a Sunday as well. And despite all the issues with our connection, where you kept coming back, So it also shows how you are the principles of determination and perseverance, which you have shown not just in your work but also during this session. So we really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. And we would love to also have a chat with you after this session as well for 5 minutes. And Sunita ji also, thank you so much for your time as well, and for your perspectives as well. To all our audience members, we thank you again for your comments and questions, and we'll meet you tomorrow in another interesting session, where we'll be having the Manrega Commissioner of Uttar Pradesh also to join and share his perspectives on literacy in rural Uttar Pradesh as well. So thank you very much, and thank you, sir, again.
Thank you so much, Smita ji. Thank you so much, Mashood ji, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay.